Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the transatlantic number Dl Svb53 Us32D. This is a grade 2 cylindrical ball knob lock set in an entrance function and a satin stainless steel finish. I'm going to give you a tour of the item and talk about it. First of all, I'm going to preface all this by saying I'm partial to transatlantic, and it's because of decades of having sold their material and decades of incredibly reliable service of the product itself. Very good value, very high performance for what you pay. Here in Chicago, where we sell it literally over-the-counter sort of application, people come to depend on it. They come to request it. They'll say, I need the taco door closer, transatlantic company. And I'm partial to the product line because of its solid performance reputation. If you're doing the kind of work that will allow you to do tenant build-out stuff, there's really no specification. Your client, the end user, the GC, whomever, the developer, says, listen, I don't want to have callbacks. This hardware needs to work. It's going to be in a moderate application in terms of volume. Transatlantic's a great option for that when it comes to hinges, especially door closers, especially exit devices, and lock sets. I'm partial. Now let's get on. This is what it looks like in the package. Here we go. You're obviously going to get the lock. We'll go over that in a moment. You're going to get 2 keys. You're going to get a 4 7/8 strike plate. This is obviously intended for a hollow metal frame. Should you need, if you're doing a wood frame application, you'll either mortise it to accept this, or you'll get a different strike, which is something we can help with. You will get a package of screws, naturally, very simple. Not a lot of screws there, you don't need a lot. 2 to hold the lock together, 2 for the strike plate, 2 for the latch bolt, and the latch bolt is here. That's a 2 3/4 latch. Transatlantic can do 2 3/8 as well on special configuration. We can add a 2 3/8 to the order. It's a separate line item. They do not just swap them out, but 2 3/8 would be fairly uncommon for this sort of application. Deadlocking latch bolt, obviously, so that when it's properly installed, the deadlocking tab is depressed, preventing you from opening the lock. Now, let's take a look at the lock itself. Oh, you're going to get a tool as well, which we're going to go over in a moment. So here it is. It's stainless steel, first of all. So it's a very nice sort of color that you're going to have because it's stainless. Entrance function. Before I do that, there's great action on this knob. It really feels like a very good quality lock. And when you compare the quality against the cost, it's really a no-brainer if you're looking for a knob lock. 53 function in the part number. That means that you've got a key on the outside. You've got a button on the inside, but that button is a push, turn. So this lock will give you 3 sorts of built-in functions. First of all, when the button's out, what you have is a passage lock. It's always a passage lock. You push the button in, then it's called an office lock, meaning that the outside is locked until someone on the inside turns that, pops the button out, now it's unlocked, an office. Or you've got a push and a turn button. You can always exit, but it's always locked on the outside, unless you were to turn that, pop it out, whatever, change it. So 3 built-in functions is what you're going to have. 2 6-pin key blanks. This lock is drilled 6-pin in the cylinder. It's pinned to 6. The keys are 6-pin. And a very nice, smooth sort of installation. Really good action. Common Schlage C keyway, 6-pin C keyway. So that's not going to be too big of a deal. Now, that special tool, you know what, let's go over the dimensional properties. The latch bolt's going to be 2 1/4 tall. It's going to be 1 1/8 wide. That's typical for a hollow metal door. So 1 1/8 wide would be a hollow metal door. Not only, but a wood door too. 4 7/8 strike is the height. Dimension from the center line of the screw holes to the edge of the lip is common, about 1 1/4 inches. Okay. Now, the tool. You'll need the tool at least when installing the lock to remove the inside knob. On the inside there's a hole, and in that hole is a spring-loaded tab. It only occurs in one place around that base. You know, with your one hand, you're going to hold the lock, and these two fingers you're going to use to apply a small amount of pressure to push the knob up, and you're going to use this end of the tool to stick it in there into the hole, and you'll immediately feel that it will depress. Okay? You want to be careful with that. You don't want it to slip off and pierce your palm, speaking from experience. So you're going to depress the tab, you're going to push up, that's going to come off. Just leave that alone. There's no need to disassemble it any further. You're going to have a threaded rosette, and a threaded rosette is a feature of much higher cost lock sets. I like those locks that have a threaded rosette. You're going to have your base plate, or your mounting plate with two holes. You're going to have a couple of prongs at 9 and 9 and 3 o'clock. Those prongs will go towards the face of the wood door, or if it's a metal door, there are little semicircles at 3 and 9 o'clock that those will seat into, and they're there to help prevent the lock from rotating over time. That's what they're for. So you've got your plate. Your two machine screws I showed you earlier will go right through these holes and into the tapped holes that are here. Tighten it, but not overly tighten. Don't use a power drill. If the screws are too tight, the lock's not going to work correctly. Nothing should be overly tight. Hand tight only. Bring your threaded rosette back down. Be very careful. You don't want to unintentionally cross thread anything. The other end of the special tool is a spanner wrench. That post there will go into the little hole that's here, and then you'll be able to treat it like a spanner wrench and turn it clockwise in order to get that to tighten down. Just tighten it to the point where the lock works very well. Then take your knob. The slot that's in the stem only occurs in one place. Make sure that you're putting that on so that it's aligned with the tab, like I have here. Okay. Then take your special tool. Oh. I thought something was biting me. Earlier this morning, I'd seen a spider about the size of an Eisenhower dollar, and I didn't go bothering him, but I thought he had come back to say hello. So that tip right there to the spring-loaded tab, nice and easy. Depress it, push the knob down with these two fingers, and you're in good shape. Okay. Now, you've passed the first test. If you need to reverse the hand, we're going to go over that next. If you don't need to reverse the hand, you're pretty much done. The end of this video will be a bit just showing you the other specifics of the lock that are clearly defined below this video. Now, right now, this lock is going to work for either a left-hand door or a left-hand reverse door. So you're going to get that latch bolt installed. Open us up some room here. So the latch bolt will be installed in the edge of the door first. Again, don't over-tighten these screws. You don't want to compress anything. The mortise in the edge of the door, if it's a wood door, needs to be proper. Don't compress anything. Locks don't work well when they're not given ample room to breathe, so to speak. So you got your latch bolt installed. When you put that on, you might need to depress the face of it a little bit just to get that down and on. It goes on real well. Okay, so you can see this lock. If you are going with the keys pointed towards the top, which you should, will only work in either this sort of orientation or in this sort of orientation. So of the four ways a door can swing, the four ways that a door is handed, this will only account for two of those ways. If you need to reverse the hand of this, here we go. So this process is sometimes not easy. And if there's one thing that I do not like about imported locks is that the process of reversing the handing is slightly more difficult than it is when compared to locks that are orders of magnitude more costly from domestically manufactured, known manufacturers of lock sets. Now, having said that, the first couple of times you do it, you'll become an expert at it. You insert the key. To reverse the hand of this, you insert the key, turn it clockwise 90 degrees. You can turn it the other way. It doesn't really matter. You just got to turn it 90 degrees. I always turn them clockwise. I turn it, and I hold it turned with my finger. Then I bring the other end of the tool and I'll insert it into the same sort of tab and slot situation that's there. And I'm putting pressure up with my fingers and just a little help with this other finger. And indeed it allowed me to pull that off. Now keep in mind the latch bolt is facing you this way. Okay, pull it off. There is no need to change any of this status of the position of any of the parts here. You don't need to remove the inner rosette. You don't need to remove the cylinder. You would only do so if you were going to rekey it, which this video will not cover. So you've got your cylinder, teeth in the proper position up. You recall the latch, the retracting hub was faced towards you. I'm going to face it towards me now. I'm just going to rotate it 180 degrees. And that is exactly how you go about changing the hand of the lock. Because what happens here is that you have a slot here and a slot on the other side. So if you take the body and turn it 180 degrees, you'll still be able to keep the knob with the teeth up going down the stem of the lock. So again, we were here, now we're going to be here. The spring-loaded tab is facing towards me, and please take note of the slot, the horizontal slot you see down there. Let's actually talk about that now. So when I insert the tool and depress that, you can see how that moves. And when I depress the tab, the spring-loaded tab, that's what allows the knob to come off. Well, why can't you just always take it off without having a key? Well, the design prevents that. A horizontal slotted hole. You'll note that the tailpiece is also horizontal. When the tailpiece is in the slotted hole, the C-clip that's there cannot depress because the tailpiece is preventing it. But when you turn it 90 degrees, you give just enough room for it to be depressed. And that's how that works. Okay. So anyway, reversing the process, retracting hub is the opposite direction. Teeth are up. Just take that and very carefully, don't pinch your fingers, bring it and just shimmy it on down. And it will stop when the stem here encounters the extended C-clip. It won't go any further. You then have to turn that key again. Didn't have the key all the way in. Okay. You have to then turn the key 90 degrees in order to open up the mouth, allow for the mouth of the C-clip to be depressed. So the special tool, again, be careful not to hurt your finger. Depress it, these fingers, pull the knob down, seat it the rest of the way. You might hear it click, test it. I'm not saying try to pull it off, but make sure that it's on. Try to pull it off. One time I installed the lock, it was a Friday, about 5 o'clock. Here in Chicago, traffic was dreadful. I got 20 minutes away, which was really only about 3 miles. Stop and go. Lady calls up and says, "Rich, the lock just came off in my hand." And I didn't. It was the last lock on a Friday. Didn't test it properly. So test it, make sure. You don't want that lock to come off in your hand. That's it. That's how you reverse the hand of these. Okay, now the rest of the description calls this out as grade 2. That's 500,000 cycles. 500,000 cycles this is rated for. These locks can easily last decades. There's no question. 2 3/4 back set. That can be done 2 3/8. Back set is the edge of the door to the center of the hole. There's nowhere on here that you can measure 2 3/4. Cylindrical locks just don't work that way. With the latch bolt installed, the dimension is the edge of the door to the center of the lock hole, which is 2 1/8. 6-pin key, 2 6-pin nickel-plated keys, 1/2-inch projection, stainless steel, UL-rated 3-hour latch bolt. Why is that important? It's very important. If you have an electric strike, and you would not have an electric strike typically with a 53 function, you'd want an 80 function, which is a storeroom. It's incredibly important to know that the projection of the latch is compatible with the strike. 1/2 inch, you're good. Pretty much any strike is going to work comfortable. I can't think of one that won't work, is what I'm trying to say. Meaning, if you had a 3/4 inch latch bolt, now you have trouble. You have to think that through. This is 1/2 inch, so you won't have any problem with compatibility if you're doing an electric strike. 2 1/8 inch hole required for this. Typical 161 prep, we would call it. 2 1/8 hole, 2 3/4 back set, 2 1/4, 1 1/8, 5/32 of an inch, 1 inch crossbore hole, diameter hole in the edge of the door. There is a link below this video to the instructions, and it will touch on the template as well. They are printed and there for your review before, during, after sale, during installation. The only thing we've not talked about is the fact that this will handle doors from 1 3/8 to 2 inch thick per the instructions, and it will show you how to thread the outside so that it's balanced equally based on the door thickness. Okay, both of these are threaded, and both you're going to want to thread that first and then seat it and then use the spanner wrench on the inside. 10-year warranty on the finish, stainless steel. Lifetime mechanical warranty on these locks. If this fails from a manufacturer's defect, you can't beat that sort of warranty. There's also a link below this video to a document called Product Brochure, which will allow you to review this and all of Transatlantic's sister products to this. Again, and finally, I'm partial, and it's only because the takeaway is this. As a distributor, as a wholesaler, as someone who needs to answer the phone when there's a problem, you can rely on Transatlantic to give you very predictable, reliable operation. You can make money on it because you're not tied up in trouble with the product line. If you're a subcontractor, a general contractor, an end user, you're going to enjoy those same benefits. If you are the general or the sub selling it upstream, so to speak, you can go to your client base and say, listen, this lock is exactly what it is. It's moderately priced, and it's very good performance for the cost. You can make money on this, meaning it's a no-brainer sort of situation. Of the thousands of their exit devices, the ED-501 that I've sold, thousands of them, in my memory, there have been 2 instances that I needed to be involved with improper operation. They failed. The first time, they failed because the push pads did not retract back out. And that's because when I went to the job site, an hour away naturally, the slide cover was so compressed against the push pad improperly that it simply, when it hit, it would not pop back out. And it wasn't that it was a design flaw. Someone literally thought you needed to drive that down so hard and so far so as to compress the operation. So when we removed the end caps, backed it out 1/8 of an inch, reinstalled the end caps, the operation was flawless. The second time, a client at a restaurant had his welder weld the device to the door. Didn't want to use screws. Fast and easy installation. Put it up there, hold it straight, zip, boom. MIG welded it right to the door. I really don't have a problem with that. It's, you know, I won't be involved in having to remove it from the door. What the guy did, though, was he put about 1800 degree Fahrenheit of heat into the device and melted one of the springs. So the latch bolt just went limp. It didn't work. So those stories are my empirical evidence as to why I'm partial to the product line. If you have any questions on the Transatlantic Dl Svb53 Us32D Grade 2 cylindrical ball entrance function lock set or any other Transatlantic product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.